Extra Point with Ryan Justice is sponsored by The Phone Medic. For the best in cell phone, tablet, or laptop repairs, The Phone Medic is the only choice for you. The Phone Medic also offers gaming PCs and laptops for both gamers and everyday users. Visit one of the 3 Phone Medic locations in Amarillo, Canyon, and their new location in Lubbock today. Hello, football fans! Welcome to the Extra Point with Ryan Justice. Week 2, all said and done, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Extra Point. My name is Ryan Justice, and man, what a second week of football the NFL had. Boy, did they deliver. Lots of surprises, some dominating performances, some franchise-shifting decisions. There is a lot to go over. Is your team 1-1, 2-0, 0-2? Man, there is a lot going on in the NFL, guys. But this is Tuesday night. This is the Extra Point. Some big news we got on to Spotify today. So we'll do the show live tonight for everyone that tunes in live. If you are a Spotify subscriber, go follow the show. Go like it. Go share it. Get your notifications on just like you would on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitch. Like, share, subscribe. Get the word out. But we'll be dropping the show on Spotify the next day. So if you miss it live, you can have a chance to go back and hear it on Spotify. Or if you want to just replay it while you're working out, while you're driving in the car, while you're at home, at the gym, whatever, you can replay it there too without having to watch the video. Or if you want to watch it, go back on YouTube, go back on Facebook or Twitch. I'll have it there as well. Before we bring in our co-host, I am going to go right into hot topics. I kind of promised a little bit of a rant right now. And the big news coming out of Carolina is Bryce Young, the number 1 overall pick last year, hitting the bench. And I've got a little something to say on this before we get started. Look, I get that this is a win-now league. I get that a lot of times you do things that you need to win now. Look at the Texans. Look at what the Niners have done. Look at what teams who are contenders right now are able to do with the talent that they have to go win now. What you do not do in this league, what absolutely 100% of the time will fail, is if you give up everything you got for the next 2 or 3 years to go and get a guy who has not taken a snap in the NFL yet. And say what you want about Bryce Young. He was amazing in college. He was one of the guys. I'll admit, I was a Bryce Young guy. I wanted to see Bryce Young come to the Texans and do what CJ Stroud is doing now. And I don't think the Texans would have traded an entire state to go get him. I don't think the Texans would have traded away every star that they have to go get a quarterback who a lot of people have said is criminally undersized. I don't care what you say about Drew Brees. And a quarterback that is going into a situation that very much warranted the first overall pick in the draft this year and last year. The NBA made a rule because of situations like this so that owners do not screw themselves. They save owners from themselves to stagger the first-round picks. Carolina gave up last year's first-round pick to move up to number 1. They gave up this year's first-round pick. They gave up a second next year. They gave up DJ Moore. You emptied the cupboard to bring in a young, promising quarterback. Because I'll admit, I thought Bryce Young could do well in the NFL if he went to the right situation. If he would have went to the Texans, yeah, I feel like Bryce Young would have had a good start. I don't know if CJ Stroud would have done what he is doing now in Carolina. He would have definitely been with a coach that wanted him. He would have definitely been able to make the most of what he had, given his size and his talents, but he would not have gone into a situation like he did with the Texans. I said last year that there needs to be something done about the incompetence in the league. More so the incompetence of the Patriots way. And luckily, it's looking like that has died the slow, painful death it was needing to die. The situation is different when the incompetence is coming from the owner, who, as we have seen, is a very small, very fragile, very weak man in David Tepper. We're talking about a man who, just because a local bar owner put up a sign that kind of criticized what the Panthers had done with their draft, blown everything up to go get Bryce Young, who is now sitting on the bench. The owner of an NFL team barges into a small business to berate said owner of that business because he criticized the team. This is the fragile ego that is running a multi-billion-dollar organization and is expecting a number one overall pick to go get them Super Bowls. This is on David Tepper. Dave Canales put on his big boy pants and made a move, which is one of the few moves in the Carolina Panthers organization that was for the best of the team. You benched the number one overall pick. Guess what? Now you had better answer for it. Andy Dalton had better be getting that ball to Xavier Legette. Your defense, that was a top 5 defense last year. A defense that could stop the run. That, yeah, they may not have been great against the pass, but they weren't allowing a whole lot of yards. Their star is gone in Brian Burns. You traded him to the Giants because your organization could not get its crap together to keep the linchpin of your defense there. So that way your young quarterback didn't have to put it all on his shoulders. And now he's sitting on the bench. Now he gets to watch from the sidelines. He gets to watch Andy Dalton's old redheaded ass go out there and try to win games for a team that is more than just one dumpster fire. Chicago has to be laughing right now because they got rid of Justin Fields for a conditional 4th round pick that more than likely is going to end up a 6th unless Justin Fields earns that starting job. I don't know how teams don't learn. I don't know how you couldn't look at the Cleveland Browns and the way the Houston Texans fleeced them and say, hold my beer. Because that is what the Panthers have done. You don't have a 2nd round next year. You're probably going to have the number 1 overall pick next year. There's no quarterback, so you're stuck with Bryce Young. You've clearly shown that you're not able to put a team together to surround a guy who is supposed to be your franchise quarterback. I'm mad for Bryce Young because I really felt like he had potential. I really felt like he could be a guy that, even though he was very undersized, was talented enough to turn a team around. A team that would have given him the right position, or that put him in the right position. He could have gone to the Bears. Carolina, instead, if that's what the Steelers gave up to get Justin Fields, Carolina probably could have given up maybe half of what they did to get Justin Fields and let Chicago draft Bryce Young. And still kept DJ Moore. And still probably would have kept Brian Burns. And still probably would have had a team that was not unbearable to watch on Sunday. The only fan base I feel worse for is the Chicago White Sox. Right now, if I am looking at it right now, D-Rock, Lawrence was brutally honest about the Jags. Yeah, we'll get to that here in a second. Comments pouring in, guys. Thank y'all for tuning in. But at this point, the Carolina Panthers should be regulated. They should be in the UFL. Send the Michigan Panthers in because that's the real Panthers in football right now. I heard one of the best jokes I heard. Shout out to Annie Agar. If you don't watch her weekly NFL meetings, you're missing something. These Panthers couldn't win even in Wakanda. This is a hopeless team. And on that, I would like to welcome our guest, our host for the night. Hadn't been here in a while. The incomparable Curtis Brown in for Andy tonight. Curtis, man, I can't believe what is going on with Bryce Young and the Panthers right now.
First of all, before I start, thanks for letting me join you this evening. I really appreciate it. Always look forward to being on. In our group chat, always come up with the phrase. I always say when there's just a dumpster fire, anything going on, how it's a factor of sadness. And the Carolina Panther organization right now is the definition of that. It is awful. You mentioned about how they're probably the only franchise in professional sports that's in American professional sports right now that's worse would be the White Sox. And, the Panthers are giving them a run for their money. You just look at really since the new ownership came in, it's just been just head scratching move after head scratching move. And, about Bryce Young, in your rant, you talked about how, quarterbacks need to be in the right situation. And it just feels like Bryce Young didn't have a chance. And that's really unfortunate because I watched him in college, and he was amazing.
Yeah.
Credit, he was at Alabama throwing the draft picks left and right.
Yeah.
That's one thing. But, if had he gone to the Texans, like you mentioned, and I'm not going to say he would have, give you more hope as CJ Stroud has, but at least he'd have a better chance because just what he's surrounded with.
And that's the thing. The Texans had talent, but they didn't have the coaching. Bryce Young had Frank Reich, and whatever you think, Frank Reich wanted. You hear the stories that Frank Reich wanted CJ Stroud because he fit his system more. But it's not like Bryce Young wasn't in good hands. But your owner's ego is so fragile that he can't admit that when he gave everything away, he set Bryce Young up to fail. Bryce Young has not thrown for more than 100 yards in 2 games. And he even threw for less yards. I saw something that said if Bryce Young spiked the ball on every play this year, he would have a higher pass rate.
Gosh, that's brutal.
And, Death 0445. Yeah, he needs some new receivers. They went out and got him. Xavier Legette, his country ass was supposed to come up as a really good receiver. Dave Canales, people talk about some of the things he's done with quarterbacks. You had a good quarterback coach. Dave Canales is the betting favorite to be the first coach fired this year, and it's not going to be his fault.
No, you see, his background. He helped with Geno Smith. Mm-hmm. He got him back to, where he's at least respected in the league. He helped with Baker Mayfield, essentially turn his career around. Yeah. Now, Baker had a lot to do with that, but, he was instrumental to that. And they were just it's just hard for someone, even with that, with that history, going into his first NFL head coaching job. And with an organization like that, just everything that happened prior to, he just put in a real tough situation. It's very possible. I'm not gonna say he's gonna be the first coach fired, but he might be a one and done.
Oh no, I think he's first coach fired. I don't even think he makes a season.
And I remember this was years ago. This probably is gonna date me, but or date myself. But I remember watching. I think it was like NFL Countdown or one of those shows on ESPN. It was when Mike Ditka was on the show.
Okay.
And I remember he said, like, when it comes to organizations, players play, coaches coach, and owners own.
Yeah.
And, you need that segregation of duties. Owners need to do what owners do. Coaches need to do what coaches do. And players are supposed to do what players do. They don't have that there, at least from the ownership.
You got to let the GM do his job too.
Yeah, like I've seen it not just in football, but we're talking. I follow soccer. You see it in other soccer clubs when the head person, when they try to interfere with what players they're going to get, and it turns into a mess.
Yeah,
and that's what's going on right here.
That's how you get Jeff Saturday as a head coach.
Yeah,
that's how. And if I'm being honest, I think that's where we're headed with David Tepper. I mean, we may see. I don't think Canales makes it to Thanksgiving. We may see Cam Newton's 80-year-old grandpa look at grandpa dressing ass on the sidelines trying to coach football because David Tepper wants to do something to inspire this fan base when what you should have done was step back and let your GM be a GM.
Yeah, I think when you mean by inspire the fan base, I think you mean ticket sales.
Yeah.
Because people want to see it. So, but
yeah.
I
mean, it would be a disaster like Colorado, but it would be one people would pay to see. But,
absolutely, yeah.
I mean, hopefully it's not permanent. And Bryce Young gets to take a step back and then come back in and see how it goes. I don't think this is going to last long with Andy Dalton.
No, but you're not the only. I say the only reason. I mean, at least Andy Dalton's coming in. He's 36. He's been there, done that. Got the T-shirt, so he's seen pretty much everything you can see in the NFL. So at least they have that. At least he could throw the ball 5 yards downfield.
I don't know if they're thinking
something out of that. Right, but I think that was they just struck lightning in the bottle in that situation.
Death for like when you saw it on Red Zone, Bryce Young was just, I mean, Bryce looks miserable. He looks absolutely miserable playing for this team, and
he looks like he's not making throws that you see in high school games.
No, throws that he would have made in college are not there.
Yeah,
and I get the game is so much different, but you were coached by two coaches who have extensive NFL experience. I mean, say what you want about Bill O'Brien, and trust me, I've had plenty to say about Bill O'Brien, but the man was winning playoff games. He was, this is a painful point, but he was up 24-0 on the Kansas City Chiefs at home.
It was at Arrowhead.
Yeah. So it's not like Bryce Young was not prepared to come into the NFL.
Yeah.
And on top of that, everything Nick Saban did with Bill Belichick. Again, you can't say Bryce Young was not prepared at the college level for what he might see in the NFL.
Yeah.
This is all on the Panthers. So, I don't know. Hopefully it's a situation where we might see Bryce Young go to greener pastures and thrive and do what Baker Mayfield is doing to the Browns right now.
Yeah, I was gonna mention one thing. You mentioned Baker and how he's thriving. I mean, is this the case of like a Baker or a Sam Darnold? I mean, time's gonna tell, obviously.
Well,
or is he gonna go towards the Zach Wilsons?
I don't think he'll do that, but I do think he's talented, and I think if you get him on a good team that can protect him, because we'll give him that, his size very much works against him.
Right.
He's getting killed out there. So he has to be behind a good offensive line.
Yeah, I agree. He I hope people will say, "Oh, what about Kyler Murray?" Kyler Murray is a generational athlete.
And he can move.
I mean, he can move. You can remember he was going to be a first round pick in baseball as well. And so Kyler has that comparison kind of doesn't really jive.
No.
But it's obviously, like, his physical attributes don't help him, his height specifically, but if he's in the right system, the right organization, who knows?
I'll give him this. He played 17 games last year and was not hurt. So
God bless him.
We'll see how that situation works out. But that just infuriates me, man. I can't. He only played 19 games before getting benched.
Yeah.
As dominant as he was in Alabama.
Yeah.
The other big news coming out, both Cooper Kupp and Deebo Samuel to the IR. Deebo joins Christian McCaffrey. Cooper Kupp joins Puka Nacua. We saw how both of those teams kind of fell apart this week. They both took losses, the Niners losing to the Vikings and the Rams just getting the doors beat off of them by the Cardinals. Which team here in the NFC West with their injured stars do you feel like is in more dire straits?
just because of like the history that the recent history that the how do I say it, that the 49ers have shown, I think they're in a better situation than the Rams. Because you're losing those two receivers in Kupp and Nacua. We got to remember Cooper Kupp, didn't he? He was at the Triple Crown winner a couple of seasons ago, right?
Yeah, he's one of the most dominant receivers in the league.
Yeah, one of the most dominant seasons, in recent memory. Puka Nacua, he certainly held his own.
Oh yeah, great arguments he should have been Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, and so now, don't get me wrong, I'm not deep into Rams lore, and all that, but who's going to catch the ball? Are you going to run a bunch of screens? I don't know.
You got Kyren Williams, and that might be it.
Yeah, that's okay. That's all you got there. At least with the 49ers, at least the perception from my view is it's plug and play. It doesn't matter who's out there. They're going to get the ball. At least they have Brandon Ayuk still, at least.
And you still have George Kittle. What's left of George Kittle? But
yeah,
that just goes to show you, the Rams' strategy of buying guys is starting to really bite them in the butt, whereas the Niners' strategy where they brought guys in and developed them has really paid off. And I'm sure they're a sigh of relief that they got that Ayuk trade done, or that Ayuk contract done, and did not trade him to Pittsburgh, because they would have. I feel like in the passing game, without McCaffrey, without Deebo Samuel, they would have been up the creek.
And you think, you mentioned how the Rams are just buying these players essentially with their philosophy when it comes to their draft is F those picks.
Yep.
They said F those picks and they got a Super Bowl out of it, but it seems like they don't have that that staying power.
Yeah,
as the Niners do.
Tampa did it too. They bought a lot of guys once Brady got there, won the Super Bowl. Yeah. Got close again just because they wanted to try and run it back, but eventually the money ran out. And they, granted, Tampa's done really well, better than New England did in managing things post Brady, but they had a rough go of it for a little while there. And the Rams Stafford will keep them in games, I think, but it's time for them to, I think, start looking towards the future.
Yeah, I think Matthew Stafford, he's close to my age. He's on the wrong side of 30.
Closing in on 40.
Yeah, and so you got to start looking ahead.
Yep.
You might have to do another F those picks and try to get a top pick coming soon, unless they just wind up crapping the bed throughout the season. But I don't think that's going to happen.
How long can you keep kicking the can down the road? Because Stafford doesn't have that much longer. Yeah. Stafford was pre-2010's draft pick. So he doesn't have that much longer to do this before he starts looking like old Phillip Rivers or Matt Ryan.
Gosh, yeah. There's only a few of them, and I don't think Matthew Stafford's one of those type of players.
Next up, have a day MHJ. After last week talking about, the big deal was how did the Cardinals not get Marvin Harrison Jr. the ball? Well, they definitely got him the ball this week. 4 catches, 130 yards, 2 touchdowns, and he took over that game.
Yeah, that's not bad, right? Not bad. No. Good return of investment right there.
It completely changed the perception of the Cardinals. I looked at them when they got up on Buffalo and was like, all right, let's see if they can hold this lead. And eventually they ran out of gas. Well, they did not run. It showed that this week they put plenty in the gas tank and got Marvin Harrison Jr. the ball.
It's interesting. I've told you before where, I followed the college game, I think college football, that's how I got introduced into the game in general. And recently you've seen receivers from Ohio State, they're getting the ball. They come into the league and they're performing well. Marvin Harrison coming from Ohio State. And I think there's this little trend I've noticed, but maybe that's something we look forward to down the line, like in the upcoming drafts. But right now, you can't be, if you're a Cardinals fan, you You got someone that could complement. Oh gosh, I can't believe
You got James
I blanked
Conner,
his
you got
name.
Kyler Murray.
Kyler Murray. Yeah, you just got him another weapon. I mean, you got the tight end, and who Kyler Murray's he's gonna feed him throughout the year. He's on my fantasy league team, so I'm appreciative of that. But please throw him the ball. You're feeling a lot better if you're a Cardinals fan for this season, especially now.
And in the chat saying Cardinals might be a threat this season.
Yeah, I mean, we just talked about two of their division rivals. They're on hard times right now. Let Arizona get on a roll. I'm not saying they're going to, but let them get on a roll. And if you can get maybe after 5 weeks, they're 1-1 now, I think. Right?
Well,
2-0.
I mean,
get them yeah, go ahead.
You've got the two top teams in that division, I would say, that have their most dangerous weapons on the shelf right now. And you look like the most explosive team in that division. The Cardinals have an opening. The Cardinals have an opening to be this year, to look like what the Texans looked like last year. And if they can be this explosive with Marvin Harrison Jr. and the other weapons, and the fact that James Conner is still going, I mean, I would watch out for the Cardinals. I had them picked pretty low this year. I believe I had them last place in the division.
Yeah.
Next year was going to be the year that they may turn it around. But boy, they've got a real opportunity, and especially if they keep playing like they have these first 2 weeks.
Yeah.
It might be time to start saying we feel bad for laughing at some of the things Jonathan Gannon did.
Well, you look at their next 3 games, Ryan. I mean, they're playing the Commando. No, they're playing the Lions, the Commandos, and I think they got to go to San Francisco. I mean, being San Francisco, how they are right now, maybe they get 2 out of 3 out of that stretch. And that makes at bare minimum 3-2.
If they hang losses on the Lions, who did not look great against the Bucs. If they hang losses on the 2 teams that were in the NFC Championship last year, boy, I don't know if I'd have to change the way I looked at the Cardinals. Because I'd have to say, okay, this might be a team that not just could make the wild card, but they could make a run at the division.
I think that's fair, given how the division is right now. It feels like with the NFC, we're only 2 weeks in.
Yeah.
But it does feel pretty open at this moment.
At least in the West.
Anyone can especially on the West. And so, the opportunity is there for the Cardinals.
Mm-hmm.
It's there. Now it's just, are they going to take that next step?
They got a big test this weekend.
Absolutely they do.
So we're going to get to, we had some picks last week. Me and Andy did. We're going to get to reactions to those games we previewed. We're going to start with the Thursday night game. Big news coming out of that. We'll get to Tua's injury later. But I just want to talk about the main game. Here we go. Do we think Buffalo will get first place in their division again? I actually picked Buffalo to not be in the division. And boy, did they make me eat my words Thursday night, because I picked the Dolphins to win the division. And I'll talk like I said, we'll get to the Tua injury here in a little bit. But even before Tua went down, the Dolphins looked like they should not have even been on the same field with Buffalo.
Yeah, it was stark, because I was expecting the Dolphins to perform much better given Thursday night home game, and they'd be up for the fight, especially against a division rival. But
they had a good comeback last week. They beat a team that was above 500. They weren't a playoff team, but they were maybe half a game out of the playoffs. Things could have broke a certain way, and the Jaguars could have been in the playoffs. They came back to win against them, and then I don't know if it was a short week. I don't know if it was overconfidence or what, but I just can't explain the way that they fell apart in Buffalo.
And maybe because Tyreek Hill didn't get arrested, maybe that needed to happen. I mean, it was just, Yeah, it could be it could have been the short week, but but Buffalo was on a short week too.
Yeah.
And they had to travel.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just disappointing, especially
Yeah.
with what Miami has like an arsenal.
I mean, there's just something about Buffalo that they cannot get over the hump with Josh Allen. And they can't push past even Stephon Diggs or not. They just can't get past what the Bills can do. And speaking of, you know, I'm looking at the Bills a bit differently now too, because I thought that with everything that they lost, no Gabe Davis, no Stephon Diggs,
Yeah.
you're unsure about the running game. I was like, okay, Buffalo might take a step back if they're going to try and put it all on Josh Allen like they did last week. But boy, did James Cook show up. And if this is the James Cook we are going to get for the rest of the season, or at least at key points in the season, Buffalo with a run game is scary.
Yeah, like because I assumed that they were going to regress to the mean, especially with those two losses. But surprisingly, so far, that they're doing all right. I mean, they beat who we just barely talked about, the Cardinals. Barely, they got scraped by them, which is looking back now, you're thinking, wow, the Cardinals are pretty good. But
yeah.
But anyways, I'm glad to see Josh Allen doing like I guess for like the term stepping up. Especially with what they lost. I wonder just throughout the season, are they going to be able to maintain that?
Yeah, that's the big question that I've always had with Josh Allen is, okay, he's looking good at certain points. He's looking dominant in certain points. So when are we going to get the Josh Allen that turns the ball over in key moments? Again, when's that guy going to show up? When's the Josh Allen going to show up that is throwing interceptions in consecutive games going to show up? Is it because he's not trying to force the ball to Diggs? Is it because they have more of a run game? I find myself asking that question a little more. But if this is the offense that they're going to run, if James Cook is going to be what is going to show what he did Thursday night, man, it doesn't have to all be on Josh Allen. Josh Allen could turn that ball over, and then when they get the ball back, they just run it down somebody's throat again.
In a way, I know if I had to compare the Bills, I look at them, it's kind of weird, but they look like a better version of Dallas with a better running game. Like who actually wins in the playoffs, first of all. But they got the quarterback who can make the plays. If you need a first down, they'll get it. And they don't have a.
I may have lost you there for a second, Curtis. We'll get it back here in a second. My big gripe with the Bills though is they didn't use Keon Coleman. He was on my fantasy team. And he got 0 points for that. So I'm looking at the Bills and I'm looking at, okay, they just need to figure some things out. I think we got Curtis back. There he is.
All right. Sorry, I don't know why the internet is iffy here, so I apologize, guys.
You're fine.
But sorry, you were saying.
Yeah, what I was saying is like my thing with the Bills is, okay, you got James Cook going, but you drafted Keon Coleman for a reason. And he had 0 points from my fantasy team, but he only was targeted twice. And if you're not going to get him the ball, that poses a problem to me.
Yeah, it's like why'd you bring him in if you got to use him? Like I think I may have been cut off whenever I was talking about, and I was making that cowboy comparison. The more I think about it, probably was not the best comparison. But I think with Josh Allen, like if you need to get a play, he can make it happen. But
can't all be on him.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's what I started. Maybe that's the best. It can't all be on him. He needs that support, like in crunch time. Who's going to provide that for them?
Yeah, and I'm really hoping it's somebody like Keon, like I said, like the rookie that they drafted in Keon Coleman, because a lot of people are torching the Bills for letting the Chiefs for trading up or trading back to let the Chiefs get Xavier Worthy, and when they could have had him and they could have had that speed threat that I feel like Buffalo needs, especially with Josh Allen's ability to launch the ball the way he does, Xavier Worthy, the more he develops, he could have just burned people down the field.
Oh,
Uh,
absolutely.
Going on to what was probably one of my most interesting matchups of the week was Tampa and Detroit. And I expected this. Okay, let's see what Baker's got. Let's see if last year wasn't a fluke. This is a team that went to the NFC Championship last year, and Baker played amazingly. In fact, well enough that some people are like, "Man, is Baker not just an above average quarterback? Is he starting to work his way into the top tier of quarterbacks in the league right now?"
I really like the Baker Mayfield story. For somebody who may not know, I follow Texas Tech, and yes, Wreckham, and that's where he started. That's where he started his career. And then he left for Oklahoma, and there's just been a bad taste in the majority of, the Tech supporters for Baker Mayfield. I'm not one of them. I like he went to Oklahoma, but I knew he was decent, and to watch him, essentially growing up in front of our eyes. Because I remember, like in college, sorry, but the whole crotch grabbing and just being immature, and now you just see him maturing and becoming like who I expected him to be in the NFL. And it's great to see that, and it helps he has Mike Evans and a pretty good organization with surrounding him. But it's great to see him thriving enough where people are saying, "Hey, like Baker Mayfield, top 10 quarterback,"
right?
And I think you're starting to see that.
Well, and the amount of turnovers on the Lions, they did not take care of the ball well either in that game.
No, yeah.
But getting back to Baker, he still has a little bit of that dog in him, though. He still has a little bit of that Eddie side to him, because I'm sure he is loving what is happening in Cleveland right now. And
he won't say it, but internally, he is.
He knows better now than to say it. But
right.
It's got to bring a smile to his face every time he sees something come up in Cleveland.
Yeah, I'm so happy for him. I'm not like the biggest Baker Mayfield fan, but I like seeing people, becoming reaching their potential, and he's getting there. He's got room to grow.
There's a lot of people that needed it too. Tampa's kind of a team that people have gone to kind of turn things around, because everyone was kind of worried. Oh man, Brady's gone. They got what they wanted with Tom Brady in a Super Bowl. What now? And they kind of had that for a little while, but then Baker comes in and he plays really well on a team that I picked to have the number 1 pick in the draft this year. Plays really well. Enough that Mike Evans wants to re-sign with the organization, but he's not just helping himself out. Look at Todd Bowles. Todd Bowles, who was absolutely gutted in New York for what was going on with the Jets, comes in, studies under Bruce Arians, gets himself, back to a head coaching job, and is doing amazing with Tampa.
Yeah, and it's funny, I know it was last year, but I feel like people are kind of forgetting, they won their division. They won a playoff game
2 years in a row.
Yeah. They won a playoff game. They pushed the Lions last year to the brink.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like they're not. They're building, and you see it, and maybe if they keep this together, get the right pieces.
I'd like
who knows what happens in a couple of years. Like I feel like they're going to win the division this year. That's what it's looking like to me.
Yeah, it's looking like a lot of my division picks are getting blown up, because I had Atlanta winning that division, and then it doesn't even look like they're going to come close.
We'll see.
As far as the Lions go, bad day at the office. Like, is that just kind of what this was?
I think so. I mean, it's throughout the NFL season. You're not going to get. You just got that day in the office. You're just like it just doesn't work out. And I think that's all this was. I think the Lions are still primed to do well this season. Just last Sunday just was not their day, and it happens.
Yeah,
it happens.
And I mean, you're doing it like I think these are the games that I kind of, even though it's a team that I'm kind of pulling for in Detroit, and they're up against a playoff team last year, like you said, a team that pushed them to the brink. Probably could have won that game if a couple things had broken Tampa's way, and they
Very well,
come
yes.
back and they get them. And I feel like they're gonna see each other again. And Goff, he had the 2 interceptions. They threw the ball a lot, and I mean, when you throw the ball 55 times, that's what you're going to end up getting. That's what's going to end up happening. Is it's just more often than not going to end well. But especially if you're up against a really, really good Tampa team. Goff, he was just kind of throwing it randomly, kind of throwing it up, and I wonder if that kind of had to do with the Amon-Ra St. Brown injury too.
I mean, surely so. I guess.
To me, though,
yeah, that had to be.
And he had 119 yards in the game, but to me, though, that's when you go, okay, our number one guy is hurt. We have other weapons that could step up. Jahmyr Gibbs is an absolute weapon. I have said this before, that Jahmyr Gibbs could be one of the most dangerous players in the league if he's used right. Jameson Williams is the same thing. You have Sam Laporta, who a lot of people are saying is the best tight end in the league. And he definitely showed it last year. He showed that he had that potential. This is a Lions team that is very loaded. And don't get me wrong, Aiden Hutchinson played really well. 4.5 sacks. In all honesty, it probably should have been 5. But unless this happens again and a little bit more consistently, I'm just going to chalk it up to bad day at the office for Jared Goff.
And you got to remember also, them having, because they won the division last season, if I remember correctly.
They got a tough schedule.
So, they have a tougher schedule. So, that comes with the territory. I think the organization is set up where
they had a playoff schedule last year too. They had a playoff team schedule last year too.
Yeah, they'll be fine. They'll be fine.
The Lions will be okay, and so will the Bucks. Like these are two teams that I'm like, okay, they're going to meet again. They're going to play again.
Absolutely,
and it's going to be.
I'm calling it now. I wouldn't be shocked if they meet again in the playoffs this year.
Speaking of bad days at the office, I was on hand for this one in Dallas.
Oh
boy, yeah. I'll let you start with this one on where do we get started with what happened in Arlington.
That just a complete no-show. After that high from last week, you would have thought the Cowboys were just road beaters, and just speaking as a fan, like host hat off, fan hat on, it just left. I wasn't mad, at the result. It was just disappointing.
Oh, you went with the parent line.
Yeah, I wasn't mad. I was just disappointed because you're thinking, the Cowboys are, there's with that performance last week, you would have thought it would just carry it over, but Alvin Kamara.
So, they just let him go.
Who's on my fantasy team?
Yeah, I saw that, by the way. Good thing I wasn't playing this week.
Yes.
Yeah. Let's just hope Kamara doesn't do that when we play. Dak was not happy. Dak was not happy with how he performed. I was actually positioned on the Saints sideline, so we were having a party. But
of course,
this was the Green Bay game. This was the Green Bay game all over again, where the Cowboys let them have the ball first. They go down, get scored on, and because this is not a team that is built to play from behind, they fell apart. It felt like I was in January again, just watching the Cowboys get torn apart by a team that, by all accounts, has built themselves well, been coached well, schemed better, and just looked like an overall team that, for lack of a better term, got their ish together. Because I didn't have a whole lot of expectations out of the Saints either. Yeah, I could, me, you, our kids, and our spouses could probably field a team and go put 47 on the Panthers right now. And, I'm kind of looking at that going, all right, the Saints did that, but, are they going to be able to do that to a team that does have a little bit more talent like Dallas? They didn't just do that. The game was over in the second quarter.
Yeah, it felt like at that moment it was like, how are they? Like I've seen this movie too many times. Like,
it might have well have been Saturday.
How are they going to? Go ahead.
Alabama versus DeVry University. Like that's what it might as well have been.
Yeah, it just like it. You just, yeah, it just felt like it was over.
Yeah,
and that was the most disappointing part.
So, I've caught some sideways glances for saying Dallas is going to go 6-11. This is why. This is exactly why I think Dallas is going to go 6-11. Because not only, and here's the thing, this happened to them when they actually had some of their key pieces on the team with them in the playoffs last year. They didn't do anything in the offseason. And now, I mean, they play a very they don't play a forgiving schedule this year. And maybe some people could chalk it up to kind of what happened with them in like the Jets game or the Cardinals last year where they came home and got beaten. No. This was this was almost a verbatim repeat of Green Bay. They are not built to play from behind.
Yeah, it's just, you look at that schedule coming out. I think they got the Ravens this week.
Yes.
Well, like oh goody.
Yeah. If I'm a Cowboys fan and I have to look across the field at Derrick Henry, knowing that he's put it out there that he was waiting on Dallas to call him and they didn't, I don't even know if I'd want to go to the game.
Yeah, he's going to want to prove something. And as you remember, like I was clamoring for Dallas to go get Derrick Henry.
Yeah.
I was,
he was affordable.
He was available, and you could have done an F those picks attitude, like trade, to get him. And I think he would make such a difference in this offense. But of course, they didn't. Yet they're all in. Nevertheless,
right.
I'm wondering now, who are the real Cowboys? Is it what we saw against Cleveland, or is it what we saw against the Saints? And I'm not at your point where they're going to be 6-11. I'm not there, and maybe that's some of the fan in me, because they're not a bad squad, but I think, like you said, once they fall behind, they're not the best when it comes to coming back.
They don't have a great culture.
Because you think about it, say it again.
They don't have a good culture.
Yeah, like here's like you said, they get the lead, they take the lead, and then you're asking Micah Parsons just to go eat.
Yeah,
see ball, hit ball, and when they're behind, they press, and it's just bad news bears.
We'll get back to the Cowboys here a little bit later. I got a little bit something on them, but my Houston Texans, Sunday Night Football. They played against a really good defense, but I want to talk about Caleb Williams right now for a second. There was some improvement. There was some parts where I said, okay, Caleb Williams is starting to learn, but then I've been hearing this almost all since the game. DeMeco Ryans did what most defensive coordinators do when a rookie starts to get some momentum. They bring the heat, and boy, did they bring the heat on Caleb Williams. They lit him up.
Yeah, how do I say it? He learned. He had his welcome to the NFL moments for sure. Yeah. He had multiple of those, and with Caleb Williams, people are. I think people are expecting him to just not perform well. I don't know why. But first off, what's going on in Chicago with Caleb Williams, they're going to be just fine compared to what's going on in Carolina. They're going to be okay. I'm not going to say he's going to be the savior of the franchise, but they're okay. They'll be fine.
Yeah,
and he's only going to improve.
This is why I said I would have liked. I'm happy the Texans got Caleb Williams early. I'm happy they got him in his second game in his NFL career, because he hasn't figured it out yet. He's got the defense there that can support him, that can set him up in good situations, but the game has not slowed down for him yet. He's gonna make mistakes. He's gonna get lit up, and he's still trying to figure this out. I feel like you said, they're gonna be fine once they get Keenan Allen back, and once he really kind of starts to figure out what the NFL is, they're gonna be okay. I've got the Bears 7-10, but a competitive 7-10. A 7, and now maybe even more, because they have an opportunity to gain some ground with Jordan Love being out. And although if they keep playing Malik Willis the way that they're playing, that door might close pretty quick. But I didn't come away going, I am completely disappointed with Caleb Williams. I was sitting there going, oh crap, this is going to be the game where he figures it out.
Yeah. Well, with Caleb, I'm thinking by week 7, 8, he's going to have one of those performances where he's like, okay, like he's starting to get it. And I feel sorry for whoever that team is around that range when he finally gets it.
Yeah. I completely agree.
But with the defense, though, he's going to have opportunities to win those games. I think 7-10, as you mentioned, I think that's fair. Maybe 6-11.
Yeah.
Maybe. But from what I'm seeing right now, like the Bears organization, the Bears fans, they have hope.
Is he your rookie of the year?
That is too early for me to say right now.
Yeah, I get that.
I'm going to hold off on that now.
Yeah, I get that.
Get back to.
I wouldn't have said that about Stroud either.
Yeah, get back to me in about 4 or 5 weeks.
Yeah. On the flip side with that, there you go. Yeah, and I could see the Bears doing that too. They could shock it and throw a 9 or 8 or 8 and 9 in there too. I could see if it clicks a little bit, because he looked way better. I'm not gonna lie, he looked much better than he did in week 1. So if it starts clicking faster for Caleb Williams, watch out. But on the flip side, with the Texans, someone put it perfectly. These are the games that if they want to be a Super Bowl contender, they need to win, because you got to win the ugly ones.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what this was.
Yeah. You're not going to go and win every game, 34-13, just outpace the other team. When it comes to January and February, like you said, there's going to be those, get your hands dirty, like you're putting in a shift, and that's what this was.
Yeah.
And it's one of those wins that the team can hang their hat on and say, okay, this will benefit us when it comes to December and January.
Yes. Here's the scary part. In these last 2 weeks, so last week was the Joe Mixon game. This week was the defense game. The offense hasn't really clicked yet. The offense hasn't really gotten going full cylinder yet. And once they get Diggs and Dell and Dalton Schultz going a little bit more, we'll see how the Mixon injury kind of affects this. Oh, man. And then the schedule doesn't get any easier, too. Like, I was kind of writing off this Vikings game, and now I'm like, oh, man. Ugh.
Yeah.
How are they going to cover Justin Jefferson if Sam Darnold's playing like that? But, I mean, Nico Collins, dude. Like, a couple years ago, I thought he was going to be a casualty of what happened prior to DeMeco Ryans, but now he's leading the league.
Thriving, isn't he? Just thriving.
Yeah.
And
his whole team.
You just got to, and with the Texans, with that coaching staff, specifically DeMeco Ryans, look from the outside looking in, he looks like he's that piece, like I don't want to say the final piece, but a very significant piece. Yeah, he's the head coach, obviously, but he has that credibility within the squad, within the
Yeah.
team, with the organization, and so it. I'm happy for him.
This is a perfect fit.
Like you just see that, that trajectory of the Texans going up, and I expect them, to improve. Well, they're going to improve on the offensive side. That's going to happen. But I expect them come December, January, they're going to make some noise.
Yeah. And they got a tough stretch in December too.
Yeah. Like they get through that stretch. I'm assuming right now they're going to be a playoff team. Yeah. And they're going to surprise someone in the playoffs.
And they're already 2 games. The rest of the division is 0-2. They're 2-0.
Yeah.
And with a really tough schedule.
Yeah.
So we'll keep an eye on my Texans. We'll move on. Last night, Falcons-Eagles came down to the very last drive. We had a little bit of a discussion with this in our group chat today. And I'm going to sit here and say, Saquon catches that pass. We're talking about Kirk Cousins in a much different light.
Yeah, it's so interesting. Like, with these look throughout Kirk Cousins' career, whenever the team does well, they get that big win. I feel like it's usually not because Kirk Cousins, just balls out. It's always the other team does something.
Yeah.
That
helps them out.
Yeah, and that's what happened last night. I found the same thing with the there was a playoff game when he was with the Vikings. I think it was against the Saints, where there was some craziness happened there.
That was the Minnesota Miracle. Was Case Keenum?
Yeah, so it's just it. Well, no, I think it was in
the
game was in New Orleans,
the Giants game.
Maybe, but it was a game in the playoffs where. Well, anyways, nevertheless,
first year.
Yeah, but it's never at all like Kirk Cousins really balled out. It's someone didn't catch the ball on the other side.
They got lucky.
Yeah, it's essentially, yeah, you got lucky. And I'm just not that I'm a Kirk Cousins hater, but just from what I'm seeing, he doesn't put the team on your back and get you that victory. He's not that type.
No, and here's the other thing. You're talking about how he's had help. I'm looking at this Eagles team going, man, this is exactly what happened to him last week. Because I'm a believer that if Jordan Love stayed in that game, if he hadn't gone down with injury, the Packers would have done. We would be talking about the Eagles getting this done to them 2 weeks in a row, because that defense was not stopping anything. They were getting big, and there was a little bit of it last night too, where as you saw, it was Jaden Reed with the Packers just blowing up this Philly defense, and the Falcons were kind of doing the same thing too, especially on that last drive. Bijan Robinson was beating the crap out of him.
Well, can I just say something real quick about the Eagles? And I'm not trying to be the hater here, the Cowboy fan hater and all that, but I just don't feel like the Eagles are a good football team. I don't. If you look, I think they're 2-9 in their last 11. I think 2-9 or 2-7, something ridiculous.
They collapsed last year. They just fell apart.
And they got Saquon, and they definitely needed Saquon, but it's just I don't
think the guys.
I don't put them on the pedestal like they're this. They're gonna win the East or what. No, I just don't. That's not the Cowboys fan in me. I promise you, it's not. It's just I don't. The coaching staff is just they had that. They rode high and they were doing great, but ever since they won that division, it just seems there's.
Here's what we're seeing, and this is clear because they got a talented team on the field, and they losing AJ Brown when you have somebody like Saquon Barkley and Devonta Smith and all those guys, they'll be able to pick up the slack, and they did.
Yeah,
but this is on Nick Sirianni. And this is going to show you just how good of a coach that both Jonathan Gannon and Shane Steichen were when they were his coordinators. And they both left. Like, it was on them, I think, that they got to the Super Bowl. After they left, you start hearing about, oh, there's dysfunction and friction between Sirianni and Jalen Hurts. You start hearing about, oh, there's arguments and stuff on this team, and there's guys being late to meetings, and there's just a lot of dysfunction happening within this organization that didn't happen when they made it to the Super Bowl and they had those two coaches in the building. And I don't think it's more on the players, but this is definitely on coaching.
Yeah, here's what I think.
Howie Roseman is not a bad GM.
No, he's not. He's not. I mean, there's a reason they have players there. They have good players, but ultimately it comes down to the coaching. Mm-hmm. Now this is going to sound like a hot take, and I'm going to say this and watch the Eagles win 8 in a row. But I wouldn't be surprised if, if he gets let go at the end of the year. At this trend.
If there's people already calling for it. There's people already saying, all right, you fired your coordinators. You got rid of those guys, and you had to collapse. Yeah, it started off great last year, but you had to collapse. This is on you, dude. If the Eagles collapse again the way that they did last year, or they don't even get close to what they were last year, yeah, Sirianni's gone.
It feels like yeah, they added Saquon, but it's gone stale.
Yeah.
And and when it started turning stale, you got to get rid of it and bring it something new.
We've seen they're not afraid.
And that's what's happening.
They got them to the Super Bowl.
They just seem like a shell of that team. But just with the coordinator's gone, it's just, yeah.
That's 40455. Thank you, man. Thank you for tuning in, hanging out with us. We love the comments. Again, light up that comment section if you guys are there. So finish the game reactions. We're gonna go 3 up and 3 down. So we're gonna I picked three places I want to say, okay, they made the up list. Curtis, you're gonna love how this is gonna end, by the way. Okay. So because I had a little twist of 3 up, 3 down. First up on the up list, it's speaking of ugly wins, the Pittsburgh Steelers are on the up list, but they're 2-0. Great defense. I think they can get the offense figured out, but if they make a quarterback change after week 3, it's just going to throw it all in a loop again. But they're on my up list this week.
Just with the Steelers organization, or I guess they just find ways they're the model of consistency. They're going to win their games. They're 2-0, and you're kind of surprised that they're 2-0. But then yet again, you're like, okay, it's the Steelers.
Yeah.
They're the ultimate description of they win more games than they lose. And, what you see is what you get. They're 2-0. Yeah. But like you said, if they bring that quarterback back, that's going to kind of rock the boat. But, hey, they're doing something right. Write it out. Let's see what happens with Justin Fields.
And Justin Fields, we'll get to this here in a little bit. He can have that starting job, especially if his play improves. But I had them going 8-9 this year and having Tomlin's first losing season. But this week, I got to give them their flowers. 2-0. I did not expect them to be 2-0 to start off the year.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting that either. But again, it's the Steelers. They just Mike Tomlin. They just find a way to make it happen.
I know we were kind of down on him in the last segment, but got to give props to Kirk Cousins, man. That final drive, we talked about how he hasn't put it on his shoulders. That was one of the few times I did see that was Kirk Cousins putting it on his shoulders and winning that game.
Yeah, no, yeah, like I've told you, I'm not an all-in with Kirk Cousins and all that, but gotta give him his flowers. I mean, he made the plays.
Great throws.
You have to give him that, and I'll give him that. But I just can't see it from a consistent rate. But way to go, Kirk Cousins. You get an up.
About the knee, but you got to give him flowers for that drive.
Yeah.
So this week, our top of the mountain goes to Alvin Kamara. You talk about a guy that just absolutely dominated.
Yes, he did.
He just absolutely dominated the game. I mean, I didn't know who else to give it to. I was going to give Marvin Harrison his flowers in the beginning of the show, but yeah. I mean, that was just dominant by Alvin Kamara. I mean, 8 years in the league for a running back, and you're able to do that. I wanted to also give it to Clint Kubiak because it feels like he is the offensive coordinator that has unlocked this offense. But Alvin Kamara is my top of the mountain this week.
Well, yeah, like as you noticed in the group chat, even though they're playing against the Cowboys, every time he scored, I'd say something about Alvin Kamara, but I make sure in parentheses, fantasy purposes only.
I loved it. It was hard to kind of check what was going on in the group chat this week because, I was running all over the place.
Yeah.
I mean, that was, man, poor Jackson.
That was really impressive. And, Clint Kubiak, let's see what happens. But if he keeps trending that way, we're looking at a future NFL head coach.
I was about to say, he keeps doing this. He's going to follow in his dad's footsteps. So we went 3 up. Now we're going to go 3 down. Down, Colts run defense. In 2 games, 474 total yards allowed, averaging out to 237 yards per game. They allowed Joe Mixon to drop 159 on him. They allowed another 150 this week to Josh Jacobs. Man, holy crap. I thought this was going to be a decent Colts defense, but they cannot stop the run to save their lives.
Heck, Ryan, with as bad as that run defense is, I bet Bryce Young, I bet he wish he could go against that defense for just 1 week. He's like, I don't got to throw the ball. I don't got to throw it.
No.
We can do 3 yards, like 8 yards in the cloud of dust, and we'll be fine.
Especially if Anthony Richardson's going to give you 3 interceptions and is starting to look like the quarterback that I thought he was going to be. And answer the question in the way that the Colts did not want that question to be answered, it could get rough in Indy. I really think it could get rough.
I feel like it's going to get worse before it gets better.
It's going to get way worse. It's going to get way worse. And they didn't even use their second round wide receiver. A.D. Mitchell, who a lot of people were high on, he's just there. Down. On our list is now Will Levis. The numbers don't look bad, but I saw that fumble. And if I was Brian Callahan, I'd be yelling at my quarterback too, man. What was he thinking?
He wasn't thinking. That's what he was thinking. And this Will Levis, I think you saw the meme for week 1.
Yeah.
Where, I think that's just going to be the picture of the season for the Titans. I mean, it's not like he's not talented.
Receiver, but the defensive lineman's picking it up.
Yeah, I have no words. I mean,
at least he's got the mayonnaise endorsement.
Oh, yeah. Way to go.
Right? Be able to live a little bit off that. So, Curtis, this one last on the down list. So we have the top of the mountain. This one is specifically for you. We did it last week. Speaking of the Factory of Sadness, this week's Factory of Sadness goes to the Dallas Cowboys. I gave my rant to the Panthers. It was a hard choice between the Panthers and the Cowboys, but everyone expected it from the Panthers. They did not expect the Cowboys to just roll over the way that they did.
Who did, though? I mean, obviously, I mentioned earlier, I wasn't expecting that. I was, really disappointed. Well, everyone besides Ryan and whoever and anyone else, but it's just, man, that was a factor of sadness. That I think this was appropriate for this week.
And here's the thing too. So they got the Ravens this week, and then the week after that, let me see.
I think they have a short week against the Giants.
No,
on Thursday night.
They have the Ravens this week, and then week 4.
I'm pretty sure it's the Giants.
Yeah, week 4
on a short week.
Giants on a Thursday night, and then week 5. Week 5 it'll be the Steelers, and then I'm going to be back with them for week 6 against the Lions. Not an easy schedule. You might have you got the Giants in there. And they could easily roll them. But then again, it just goes back to the narrative I've always said is follow the Cowboys, just like the Dolphins. Do great against the teams that they should just be able to roll. But when it comes to the teams that actually have some fight in them or could actually get physical and punch them in the face, they lay down.
You also like to add to what you're saying on that schedule. They have a bye week, then they got to go to the 49ers.
Yep. It
And
does not
so
get
it's
easy.
like, yeah,
Again, that's where I'm saying 6-11. It could. I think it's very much possible.
yeah. We'll see, but yeah,
This is a.
it's not going to get easy. This week will be telling.
Oh yeah.
How do they respond?
Because let's face it, Baltimore's hurting on defense. Their
Yes.
offensive line has not been great, but you've got Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson back there, and Dallas again. They get a big play put on them, they fold. So
this week will say a lot about the team.
Yeah, it will. Yeah, well, who are the Dallas Cowboys? So we go from 3 up to 3 down to another one of our great segments here on the Extra Point. But I want to take some time to thank my sponsors, the Phone Medic of Amarillo, Canyon, and Lubbock. If you need some tech repaired, I know we're a little bit over an hour into the show and I haven't thanked my sponsors. I'm sorry, Gabe. But if you need some tech repair, if you need a new gaming laptop, PC, console, go to Gabe at the Phone Medic of Amarillo, Canyon, and Lubbock. He'll get you taken care of. Tell him Ryan from the Extra Point sent you. Guys, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe on Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook. And now Spotify. The show will go up the next day on Spotify, the audio version of it. So go follow me on Spotify. Go like the show. Go listen. You guys can take it with you. Listen in the car, at the gym, at work, while you're at kids' soccer practice, wherever you want to go. But yeah, go check out the Extra Point with Ryan Justice on Spotify now. I just dropped last week's episode, and I will be dropping tonight's episode tomorrow. So now we go to buy or sell. And I said, as we mentioned earlier, we talked about the Dolphins. So now here's the serious question. We saw the Tua injury, and we saw how bad that was. So we're going to say buy or sell. Should Tua call it a career?
It's hard for me to tell people quit your job, like go do something else, because this is his livelihood. Remember, all of his life, he's wanted to be the football player. He's wanted to play in the NFL, and wants to be the star quarterback. But I guess to answer, I hate saying this, and I don't know why I'm saying this, but actually, hold on. Let me rephrase that. I think as a human, seeing him getting these concussions and just what seems like just getting eliminated, with these awful hits and everything. Right. I want to buy this so bad. I want to buy it, that he should call it. But if it was just me, I would say, oh yeah, absolutely buy it. End it now. But you got to remember, he just signed a big time contract.
Yeah, a huge contract.
He just signed a huge contract. And so I feel like he's the type, he wants to go, he wants to, earn that contract, that he's worked so hard for. But as much as I want to say buy, I think it's going to be a sell. He's going to keep playing. And it's going to have to take his family to say, hey man, we're going to be okay. Let's worry about your health. We want you to be around with our kids.
The team can figure it out. But for me, it's a no-brainer. I'm buying it. I'm buying should he call it a career? Yes. Will he? No.
Right.
I'm saying this as an athlete and seeing guys that have had way too many injuries keep going and then end up doing something worse. The first one, you could probably get through it. But when it starts repeating and it's the same thing over and over and over again, and it's not going to get any easier. And eventually this is going to affect how you play the game. This is going to affect your ability on the field. You are going to become more of a liability than you are an asset. And I think a lot of elite players at least have to, as competitive as they are, someone has to step in and say, dude, this isn't just your health. This is becoming a detriment to the team. And if somebody approached him with that, he might be able to see the light.
I see. I think there's that competitive. We all have that competitive side. This I feel like we all do, And I know he's running on that right now. And I think from a team aspect, just on the team, you know, if it, he's probably going to get, I hate saying it, he's going to get probably at least a couple more concussions in his career.
Yeah. And they're
And
going
so,
to get worse.
Yeah. And so it's going to be a detriment to the team. But with his history and how concussions are so prevalent, I'm looking at him just from like a man.
Yeah.
Not the Tagovailoa on the back of his shirt.
No.
I'm just looking at him as a man. And I hope his family at least sits him down and sits and talks to him.
Yeah.
And then they can make that decision.
If there was ever a case for mandating the Guardian cap, he would be it.
Yeah.
I think he would be it. Moving on buy or sell. Buy or sell, did we underestimate the New England Patriots?
Ooh, that's a tough one. Did we underestimate?
I'll go first.
I think we did a little bit.
I'm gonna buy that because we didn't know what Jerod Mayo was. We knew he was another Belichick disciple, but I liked what the Patriots kind of have done. Stevenson had a good year last year. They did draft Drake May at the top of the draft. It looks like he's going to sit and learn behind Jacoby Brissett, which is a valuable asset, I think.
Yeah.
It could end up with Drake May being a lot better than we thought he was going to be. But I'm not, I don't think we just underestimated the Patriots as a whole, but I think more specifically, we did underestimate Jerod Mayo. And the fact that they went out and did what they did to Cincy, they played a tough game against Seattle, and it took them to overtime. I'm not gonna sit here and crown New England again, but I am gonna say, man, don't just write them off.
You like what you're seeing from them, and again, I guess to be official, I'm buying them. I really like Jacoby Brissett. I think he's going to do wonders for Drake May. Now, I'm not saying Drake May is going to be MVP, but he's going to have that benefit at least learning from a good quality NFL veteran quarterback.
Yeah.
I agree. Who's been there, done that. Who's had success. So in the long term, he's going to be great. I think I say great. He's going to be a lot better off. Yeah. Right now with the Patriots, you have to like what you're seeing. Bringing in Jerod May, I wasn't as high on him simply because he's a Belichick disciple, and that Belichick disciples generally don't do that great overall.
No.
But right now, I'm buying what they're doing. I hope it continues. And not to where they have like another dynasty, but at least they're respectable.
Yeah.
And I think that's okay right now.
That's going to do it for buy or sell. So we're going to get into our game previews. Our lines are going to be provided by ESPN Bet. As of today, and these lines are updated as of today. So speaking of New England, they do kick off the slate. They open up as 6.5-point dogs at New York. Aaron Rodgers got his first win as a New York Jet. Still didn't look great, but they were able to get the run game going. They may have found something with those running backs that would kind of take the pressure off of Aaron Rodgers for a little while.
And I think for the Jets organization, the fact that that Aaron Rodgers is going to his third game, I think that's doing them wonders.
Yeah.
So I think with that, I mean, it's something they can build off of. They've got that running game going. And then the defense, I'm really liking this.
Yeah. It's still, I mean, aside from the Hassan Reddick stuff, the defense still plays really well.
Yeah, this defense is really good. And I just feel like they're going to get better. They're going to be consistent.
Yeah. They just need to get it from the offense.
Yeah. And I think over time, I think Aaron's going to get it going. And they're gonna and they're gonna. How do I say it? I don't want to say they're gonna be a playoff team, but they're gonna be there. They're gonna be in the
They're
discussion.
competitive. Yeah, they're going to be in the mix. I think so. Time to reveal our picks, though. I bought that we were underestimating the Patriots. I'm going to give them a shot this week. I've got the Patriots going to the Jets and winning. You got the Jets taking this one.
And I think it all comes down to the defense. I think they'll be able to keep the Patriot offense in check. They'll be able to slow down Jacoby Brissett in them just enough for the running game, for the Jets running game, and Aaron Rodgers to go ahead and make some plays when needed. It's not going to be a blowout, nothing like that. It's going to be close, but at the end, I think the Jets are going to pull through.
Here's one thing that I've got that might make a difference in this game, though. The Patriots are the 11th overall defense in the league right now. The Jets are near the bottom of the league, and Brissett can make just enough smart decisions that I think he could create opportunities to pull this game out of reach, especially if Aaron Rodgers and the offense do kind of sputter. Remember, the Patriots had a really good defense last year, and they did lose Matthew Judon, but they were able to kind of keep it together and build on it. I just think that's going to be the difference. They're going to make Rodgers throw some turnovers, and they're going to force some stupid decisions by Nathaniel Hackett. So,
yeah, I mean, yeah. Well, let's see what happens. But I think we'll see.
Yeah, Thursday night. We'll see. We got it. And moving on to our next game, Philly goes to the Superdome to play the New Orleans Saints. This one actually surprised me with the Saints opening up as 2.5-point favorites over Philly. I figured they would be the favorites, but after what they did to Dallas, and especially with how Philly's defense has performed in the last couple of weeks, could we be looking at a third straight blowout for the New Orleans Saints?
I think there was a lot to be said with how. I don't know if you can hear me right now.
I got you. Your screen's frozen.
Okay. I think a lot has to be said with how the Saints performed last week against the Cowboys. I don't think that was a fluke. And I fully expect them to ride this momentum against this Eagles team. Just remember, I'm not entirely too high on them.
Yeah.
I just, the Eagles will make some play.
Oh, there he goes. Lost Curtis for a minute. He was talking about the Eagles have made some plays. Not too high on the Eagles. I'm not too high on them either. You look at kind of what happened in the end of that game last week, and kind of what happened with the Packers, where the Packers were just able to make big plays almost seemingly at will against the Eagles, and then the Falcons were able to do so also. The Saints were just almost nothing but big plays against the Cowboys, and I don't know if it's going to be a blowout, but it's definitely going to be more than 2.5 points in this game that I got the Saints winning by. Curtis, once we get him back, he's got the Saints winning as well. And I'll get him a little bit more on what he's got with Philadelphia here in a second. We'll move on. We lost him completely though. We'll get Curtis back. But moving on, we'll go to Detroit at Arizona. This one has, in my mind, the best chance to be a shootout. There we go. Curtis coming back on. There we go, Curtis.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. You're fine. I revealed the picks. We both have the Saints in that Eagles Saints game.
Okay, yeah. Sorry about that. I have the worst internet in the history of ever here. But
I'll get you hooked.
Yeah, I just think the Saints are going to be too much for the Eagles. Simple enough.
Especially after the Eagles were have gone 2 weeks in a row, and the passing game especially, just letting up big play after big play. Shaheed could feast, Olave could feast, Kamara could feast. This, I'm not saying it's going to be a blowout, but it's definitely going to be more than 2.5 points.
Yeah, I think it's probably going to be like a field goal game. Like right on less than a touchdown.
See, I'm gonna go at least 6.
Okay.
At least 6 points. I would lay the points on that one. This one I feel like could be the shootout of the week. Detroit 3-point favorites over Arizona. This is a chance for Arizona to show what they did last week was not a fluke. Detroit, like we said, bad day at the office. Arizona may have seemingly found their groove with Marvin Harrison Jr. The Lions have a better defense, I think. But man, I don't know. Arizona just kind of feels like they've caught fire with Marvin Harrison Jr. I know teams are going to adjust, but you still got to account for Kyler Murray running out of the backfield.
Absolutely. This week, as I mentioned before, with the who was it? Let me rephrase that. We're going to learn a lot about these Cardinals.
Yeah.
This week, like we're going to see if this is not necessarily a breakout game, but we're going to see if if this team is just different.
Mm-hmm.
But also, I look at Detroit. I do think last week was just a bad day in the office, and they're going to rebound. It's I don't know if how do I say it? I'll expect more this week out of these Lions.
I expect them to. I think we're going to see a better Lions team. I don't think we're going to see Jared Goff making the mistakes that he's made.
Right.
But man, Arizona just kind of has that momentum right now, and that's where we're gonna. This is the second game we've differed on. I've got Arizona at home, knocking off the Lions and really making a case for themselves.
Yeah, Arizona's on that high right now.
Mm-hmm.
With Marvin Harrison Jr. and just what they got going on, it's good. It's good right now. I just don't see the Lions dropping two in a row right now. I don't. I think they're too good at this point. I think they're the more, how do I say it? I think they're more inclined to be in that midseason form where you expect them to perform well week in and week out. They're closer to that than the Cardinals right now.
What I'm looking at is, okay, you have Arizona played 2 playoff teams in a row. 3 if you count the Lions now. And in 2 of those games, they had those teams on the ropes and looking like they were scrambling to figure out how to play this team. Now, granted, you can say what you want about the Rams and the injuries and stuff, but nobody expected Arizona to look that good. And this is one of those weeks. It's like you said, we're going to find out who the Cardinals are. And this is where I'm going to give them a shot. All right, show me that you are for real, or you are at least competitive, and not the team a lot of people expected to be at the bottom of the barrel going into the season.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Go ahead. Yeah, I was going to move on to the next one.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So the next game we got on the slate, Kansas City, the Sunday night game, 3.5-point favorites, which is surprising, over Atlanta. I believe this is Atlanta's home opener. No, it's not. They played the Saints at home last week. Yeah. Oh, no, wait, not the Saints. Steelers. What am I saying? I get too many.
Because Russell Wilson was inactive, but he was in uniform. I remember that. Yeah.
Moving on.
I remember that. Yeah, anyways. I just remember that it was in Atlanta, so that's the only reason I remember that.
Atlanta still does play very well at home. It's still a hard place to go win, but it is the Kansas City Chiefs, who did only win by a point against Cincinnati. Mahomes didn't have his best game, but you have the game-winning drive by Kirk Cousins. What are you looking for in this game? I mean, these are 2 teams we don't see meet up very often.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird matchup. Like you said, like it's an interconference matchup that especially being on. I guess I didn't realize it was on a Sunday night.
Can Kirk Cousins do it twice in primetime?
Yeah.
That's a big question.
Yeah, I feel like we know how this, at least for me, I feel like I know how this is going to go.
Yeah.
With Kirk Cousins. But one thing, it'll be interesting to see, like, can he rise up? Like, like when the team needs him, is he going to come through? But I think after what Kansas City, what they went through last week, they're going to want to prove something. Yeah. And I think he was pretty quiet last week. But I think this is a game where Xavier Worthy can, open, really shine.
Yeah, I agree.
I feel like this is a game Sunday night. He'll show out. Kansas City, they drafted him for a reason in that first round. To open the top off those defenses, and I think he's going to do that today. I think that'll be the key thing. If if the Chiefs can do that, if they can get him going, and not asking for the world, but
No.
just stretch the field. I
Yeah.
think that's going to help Kelsey and them so much, and Mahomes. Yeah.
Yeah. Now I will say this: they're going to have to overcome Pacheco going down. They signed
Yeah.
Kareem Hunt they signed back Kareem Hunt to the practice squad. More than likely, he's going to be elevated either before this game or at some point after.
And don't they have some Samaje Perine as well?
They do.
Yeah.
They also, I guess this gives Clyde Edwards-Helaire another chance.
Yeah.
That's going to be one to watch to see how if Atlanta can capitalize on that. But what that means is you give Patrick Mahomes a chance to show out, and when he usually does, that's when you get the Chiefs looking for a three-peat, going 3-0. I think it's safe to say you and I both got the Chiefs in this game.
Yeah, I think the last person you want someone to try to show out is Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah,
and I feel like the stage is going to be set for him to do,
especially after not having a great game last week, not even breaking 200 yards and having 2 interceptions.
Definitely the rarity.
Yeah, that Mahomes is going to want to remind people who the hell he is.
Yeah, and I expect that.
We move on to one of the 2 Monday night games that is happening. This one I feel like is the more interesting one. The other one is Cincy and Washington, which I don't know. I'm going to have them both on, but I think I'm going to be paying attention to this one more, mainly so I can laugh at my son. But anyway,
of course.
Jacksonville goes to Buffalo. The Jags are 0-2. Buffalo opens up as minus 5.5 point favorite. Trevor Lawrence admitted in a press conference that his team sucks. And the Bills are looking like a team that might repeat again as the AFC East champions. Jacksonville was on a high getting up on the Dolphins, but much like their season last year, they started off really good and then collapsed. And they're I believe I was calculating it up today. They started 8. They were 8-3 when they collapsed to finish 9-8, and then they've lost these last 2. So I want to say it was like 1-7 or something like that in the last. They've only won 1 game since the middle of last year, and they're up against a Josh Allen a team in Buffalo that has seemingly figured out what is going to work post Stephon Diggs.
I know we touched on Buffalo and Josh Allen and them earlier, but when I look at Jacksonville, like they're 0-2, and it just feels like they should at least, like, why are you 0-2? Like, I feel like they shouldn't be 0-2 personally. I know they lost a close one. Was it last week to Cleveland?
Yeah, they lost to Cleveland. They with Deshaun Watson and everything that's going on around them. That's a team, especially with the way that they showed against Dallas. That's a team where Jacksonville's got a good defense. They seemingly have good receivers. They should have won that game.
Yeah, and like they should be at minimum be 1-1 at minimum. And so it's really unfortunate because I want them to do well. They're better than 0-2. I think they have obviously Trevor Lawrence. I like the coaching staff. That they're
not set up to fail.
Yeah, like they're competent. So it just I digress.
Get it together.
Yeah, like is this Trevor Lawrence's like 4th year or 3rd year in the league, roughly?
Well, he just signed his contract, so I think he had
at least 4.
Yeah. So I know they got the option, and then the big contract's going to kick in.
But like I expect him to do better later on the season, I guess. Now,
I don't.
Because right now, I don't know.
I don't trust it because it's still the Jaguars, and the Jaguars are going to do Jaguar things, no matter how they're set up. They can make it to the AFC Championship one year and then be 5-12 the next. That's just kind of how they do with the same talent. And a lot of people are saying this. Okay, this is a year for Trevor Lawrence to really show what he is to kind of start proving people wrong. And I don't think he has. Travis Etienne is great. That rookie wide receiver Davis that they picked up, I think he's going to be great.
Yeah,
but it's got to be on Trevor Lawrence. And I don't know if I can count on him to really be there in big situations. But I think again, it's safe to say you and I both got, especially with what we said earlier, we both got the Bills in this game.
Yeah, it just feels like all the momentum right now is with the Bills, and I'd be shocked if they drop this one.
Jags
Like, as much as I want the Jaguars to do well, no, not do well, but should be better. I'd just be shocked if the Bills drop this.
I wouldn't be surprised if they did, if the Bills did, because it does feel like a game. Josh Allen shows up and does some of the lizard brain Josh Allen things that he does.
Yeah.
But the Jags are just, they're in disarray right now. Don't get me wrong. The whole AFC South outside of the Texans are in complete disarray right now. But the Jags kind of have some things that you're scratching your head about.
And like with the Jaguars, you look at them and like you said, like, what are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
Be better.
Be better. You're better than this.
Yeah, you're better than this.
Come on.
Piss poor record. But maybe that's just the optimist in me. I don't know.
So here we go. That was our game picks. Now it's time for the extra picks, and I've added a little something to it. We're doing this via Prize Picks, so that way if you guys do want to follow and make some of the picks that I am making, you can go and actually win some money right now. They got some really cool squares going on, some basically free squares with Caleb Williams. Basically, hey, pick Caleb Williams to throw for over half a yard. You've already won a third of your bet. But my extra picks this week, I'm going to go with Sam Darnold over 220 passing yards. Going to lay some money on him. I think if Justin Jefferson plays, especially, this Texans pass defense has been vulnerable. They were able to execute on a rookie quarterback, and they were able to execute on a quarterback that I don't think his game translates to the NFL very well. So this is a test of, I think, of a guy that if he gets good protection, he's got great receivers. We'll see what he can really do through the air.
You know, I like this bet. I really do. I think he's gonna go over it. It'll be tough, because I don't think this. I think what we saw last week against the Bears, that's not an anomaly, but like you got to remember, they're doing the rookie quarterback second game. Mm-hmm. Sam Darnold, not a rookie quarterback, not in his second game, and I think he's actually coming into his own now.
Yeah,
with the Vikings,
good coach.
Yeah, like it's who would have thought? Who would have thought if you're on competent people, good things are going to happen. Who would have thought it? And so, and that's another person. Like I'm along with Baker. I feel like he's at that same trajectory where like he's finally getting his chance.
I'm picking
at a competent place, and
I'm picking him as part of this little parlay, but he still looks like a Lego police officer. So with Prize Picks, what you do is you pick three squares, and if you win on all three of those squares, you win some money. So the second of those three squares that I've picked, James Cook over 62.5 rushing yards against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Again, like we just talked about, Jacksonville, what are you doing? And with James Cook playing the way he played against the Bills, I thought this was a good one to pick up.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. Yeah, like I'd be shocked. I'm kind of surprised that number isn't higher.
Me too. When I saw it, I was like, okay.
I think that if it was like 75, I'd be kind of, I don't know, but I think 62.5 is appropriate. I don't see, Jacksonville is going to probably Jacksonville, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, this is fair.
We talked about this one in our game preview, and this one might actually be my lock for the week. Rashid, I knew I was going to mess this up. Rashid Shaheed for New Orleans, over 44.5 receiving yards against an Eagles defense that let up a ton of big plays in the passing game these last 2 weeks.
Yeah, that secondary for the Eagles, I think, is going to, I don't see it improve. I don't think it's getting any better as the season progresses. No. I don't. I just. Well, just well, I'm not going to Eagle diatribe again, but yeah, like 44.5, that's appropriate. Yeah, he can go over on that this week, especially being at home. Yeah, he'll get it.
those are the extra picks done via Prize Picks. If you guys want to hop on where it is allowed, you can hop on and make your picks, pick up some extra money this weekend with the NFL slate. Well, that does it for the extra point tonight, Curtis, man. Thank you for hopping on.
Hey, thanks for letting me join you. I always appreciate it. I always enjoy talking ball with you.
Of course, man. And again, I want to say thanks to our sponsors, the Phone Medic of Amarillo, Canyon, and Lubbock. Thank you guys for all the comments tonight. This is probably the most engaged I've had my audience since we've done the extra point. So again, thank you guys. Again, thank you to our sponsors at the Phone Medic of Amarillo, Canyon, and Lubbock. Thank you, Hunter. I enjoyed it too. But yeah, thank you to my sponsors again, guys. Go like, share, and subscribe on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. And now Spotify. Remember, we are going to put this show up on Spotify. I'll have it up sometime tomorrow once I kind of get it edited a little bit, and then go from there. But yeah, guys, go support the show. Go share it. Let people know. And guys, enjoy week 3 as we get started on Thursday night with the Patriots and the Jets. Until then, for Curtis Brown, goodbye and good night.